close your eyes for a moment. Right now, beneath your feet, there's a living organism that could be larger than a blue whale, older than human civilization, and connected through an underground network more sophisticated than the internet we've built. And here's the shocking part. It's doing absolutely nothing to harm you. In fact, it's been quietly keeping you alive your entire existence, and you've never once thanked it. What if I told you that mushrooms aren't plants? They're not vegetables. They're closer to you than they are to a tomato. They breathe oxygen like you do. They exhale carbon dioxide like you do. And in the darkness of the forest floor, they're having conversations we're only just beginning to understand. Tonight, we're going on a journey into the most peaceful kingdom on Earth. A kingdom that has no wars, no competition for dominance, only quiet cooperation spanning millennia. The kingdom of fungi. And by the end of our time together, you'll never look at the world the same way again. But before we begin this tranquil journey, do me a favor. Hit that like button to support this channel, and subscribe so you never miss content designed to help you drift into peaceful sleep. And I'm curious, leave a comment telling me what country you're listening from, and what time it is where you are right now. I love knowing there's a global community of curious minds settling down together, wherever you are in the world. Let me start with something that will shift your entire perspective. When you see a mushroom popping up through the soil, you're not looking at the organism itself. You're looking at its fruit. The actual mushroom, the living being, is underground, invisible, spreading through the soil like an enormous cobweb made of threads thinner than human hair. Think of it like this. If the mushroom organism was an apple tree, the mushroom you see above ground is just the apple. The real tree is hidden beneath your feet, sometimes stretching for miles in every direction. In 1998, a scientist named Catherine Parks discovered something that redefined the concept of largest living organism. In the Blue Mountains of Oregon, she found a single honey fungus Armillaria ostoi spreading across 2,384 acres. That's roughly 1,665 football fields. And it's all one organism. One living being, connected underground, estimated to be between 2,400 and 8,650 years old. While empires rose and fell, while humans invented writing, built pyramids, discovered fire, and reached for the stars, this mushroom has been doing the same thing it's always done. Growing slowly, peacefully, breaking down dead wood, recycling nutrients back into the soil. No drama, no urgency. Just existing, quietly, in the dark. Here's what makes this even more beautiful. Mushrooms have no brain, no nervous system as we understand it, yet they make decisions. They navigate. They remember. A slime mold, a type of fungal organism, can solve mazes. Researchers at Hokkaido University in Japan, led by Professor Toshiyuki Nakagaki in 2000, placed oat flakes in a maze and watched as the slime mold found the shortest path between them. It created a network almost identical to Tokyo's rail system, one of the most efficient transportation networks humans have ever designed. The organism had no blueprint, no planning committee, no conscious thought. It simply grew in the most efficient way possible, effortlessly. Now, here's where things get truly mesmerizing. Beneath every forest, there exists an internet. Not metaphorically, actually, and it's been running for 400 million years. In 1997, Dr. Suzanne Simard at the University of British Columbia made a discovery that would revolutionize our understanding of forests. She found that trees aren't individual organisms competing for survival. They're connected through fungal networks, millions of tiny threads called mycelium that link tree roots together across vast distances. These networks do something extraordinary. They allow trees to share resources. A mother tree, towering and ancient, can send sugars through the fungal network to her offspring struggling in the shade. Trees under attack by insects can send chemical warning signals through the network to neighboring trees, which then begin producing defensive compounds before the insects even arrive. The fungi act as the intermediary, the telephone wires, taking a small percentage of sugars as payment for their communication services. It's a cooperation so ancient, so fundamental, that neither trees nor fungi could survive without it. Think of it like this. Imagine if every time you ate a meal, a portion of those nutrients could automatically be sent to a stranger across town who needed them more than you. No apps, no delivery systems, no conscious decision. Just an automatic, peaceful redistribution of resources based on need. That's what's happening beneath your feet right now, in every forest on Earth. Dr. Simard calls it the Wood Wide Web, and it challenges everything we thought we knew about competition in nature. The forest isn't the battleground. It's a community. A quiet, interconnected community where the strong support the weak, where information flows freely, and where cooperation creates resilience. Here's what will blow your mind. Some of these networks are so vast that they connect entire forests. A single fungal network in Michigan was found to be 1,500 years old, connecting thousands of trees across 37 acres. For 1,500 years, trees have been born, grown, and died, all while plugging into the same ancient communication network. And the mushroom maintaining this network? It asks for almost nothing in return. Just some sugars. Just a little carbon. In exchange, it breaks down rock, creating soil. It filters toxins from water. It recycles dead matter back into life. Let's talk about time for a moment. Because mushrooms experience time in a way that should fundamentally change how you think about patience. When a mushroom spore lands on the forest floor, it might wait, for years, even decades, sitting dormant, neither alive nor dead, waiting for the perfect conditions. The right temperature, the right moisture, the right companion. And when those conditions finally arrive, it begins to grow. But here's the beautiful part. It's not stressed about waiting. It has no anxiety about whether the conditions will ever be right. It simply waits, in a state of perfect suspension. Dr. Paul Stamets, one of the world's leading mycologists, describes mushrooms as Earth's natural internet, but he also describes them as time travelers. Mushroom spores have been revived after being frozen in ice for thousands of years. They've survived in the vacuum of space. They've been found in asteroids. In 2008, Russian scientists successfully germinated seeds from a 32,000-year-old Arctic flower that had been cached by an ancient squirrel and frozen in Siberian permafrost. But fungi can do something even more remarkable. They can remain viable for even longer periods while maintaining their full genetic information. Think of it like this. Imagine if you could pause your life at any moment, store yourself on a shelf, and restart centuries later, picking up exactly where you left off. No aging. No degradation. Just patience embodied. A mushroom growing in your backyard might be connected to a mycelial network that's older than your country, older than your language, older than your entire cultural history. And it's growing at its own pace, unconcerned with human timelines, human urgency, human stress. In a world where we're constantly told to hurry, to optimize, to maximize every moment, there's something profoundly calming about an organism that operates on geological time, that sees a century as we see afternoon, that accomplishes incredible things through patience alone. The mushroom doesn't force growth. It doesn't stress about outcomes. When conditions are right, it grows. When they're not, it waits. And somehow, through this approach, it has outlasted dinosaurs, ice ages, and mass extinctions. What if I told you that the secret to resilience isn't urgency, but patience? Not force, but flexibility? The mushroom has been teaching this lesson for 400 million years. We're just now learning to listen. Now we enter perhaps the most hopeful territory, mushrooms as medicine. Not in the vague, alternative sense, but in the rigorous, scientific, life-saving sense. In 1928, Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin, a compound produced by a fungus. This single discovery has saved more human lives than any other medical breakthrough in history. Over 200 million lives by conservative estimates. And it came from mold, a fungus most people would scrape off their bread and throw away. But here's what's truly remarkable. We've only identified about 10% of fungal species on Earth. That means 90% of fungi remain completely unknown to science. And within that 90%, there could be cures for diseases we currently consider incurable. Dr. Christopher Hobbs, an ethnobotanist who has spent 4 decades studying medicinal mushrooms, discovered that certain mushrooms contain compounds that can slow tumor growth, boost immune function, and reduce inflammation. The turkey tail mushroom Schrammitz versicolor contains a compound called PSK that's been approved as a cancer treatment in Japan since the 1980s. Think of it like this. Imagine your immune system is an army. Most medicines work by bringing in outside reinforcements or weapons. But medicinal mushrooms work by training your own army to fight better. They don't do the work for you. They help you do the work for yourself. The lion's mane mushroom Hericium arenacus has been shown in studies to stimulate nerve growth factor, potentially helping repair nerve damage and supporting brain health. In a 2009 study by Dr. Hirokazu Kawajishi at Shizuoka University, elderly participants with mild cognitive impairment showed significant improvement after consuming lion's mane for 16 weeks. And here's the beautiful part. These mushrooms have been used in traditional medicine for thousands of years. Asian healers knew, through careful observation and cultural knowledge, what Western science is only now confirming. The mushroom didn't suddenly become medicinal. It was always there, quietly offering healing, waiting for us to notice. Reishi mushrooms Ganoderma lucidum have been called the mushroom of immortality in Chinese medicine for over 2,000 years. Modern research has found they contain compounds that support liver function, reduce stress hormones, and improve sleep quality. The mushroom isn't magical, it's chemical. But the chemicals it produces have been refined over millions of years of evolution into elegant solutions. What's particularly calming about mushrooms as medicine is their gentleness. They're adaptogens. They help your body return to balance rather than forcing a specific outcome. They don't override your system. They support it. They work with your body's natural intelligence rather than against it. Let's talk about something we usually avoid: death, decay, the end of things. Because mushrooms are about to reframe your entire relationship with endings. Mushrooms are decomposers. That's their primary role in the ecosystem. They break down dead things, fallen trees, dead animals, even toxic waste, and transform them into nutrients that can feed new life. They are the ultimate recyclers. Nothing is waste to a mushroom. Everything is potential. Dr. Paul Stamets discovered that certain mushrooms can break down petroleum products, pesticides, and even nerve gas. In experiments, he placed oyster mushrooms on soil contaminated with diesel fuel. Within 8 weeks, the contaminated soil had been transformed into rich, healthy earth, and the mushrooms themselves were thriving. Think of it like this. Imagine if every mistake you made, every failure, every ending in your life could be transformed into exactly the nutrients you needed for your next beginning. That's what mushrooms do. They don't see death as tragedy. They see it as transformation. When a tree falls in the forest, mushrooms are among the first to arrive. They send their microscopic threads into the wood, secreting enzymes that break down lignin and cellulose, 2 of the most stable, difficult to decompose compounds in nature. Slowly, over years or decades, they transform the fallen giant into soil, into life. And here's what's profound. The tree doesn't disappear. It's not destroyed. It's transformed. The carbon that once stood tall as oak or pine is released back into the cycle. Some becomes soil. Some feeds new trees. Some becomes mushroom. Nothing is lost. Everything is transformed. In 2007, artist J. Rim Lee created the Infinity Burial Project, a biodegradable burial suit embedded with mushroom spores trained to digest human tissue and neutralize toxins that accumulate in our bodies throughout life. The idea is radical but beautiful. Instead of being embalmed and sealed away from the earth, we could be transformed by mushrooms into clean, rich soil that feeds new growth. It's not morbid. It's circular. It's how nature has always worked. The mushroom doesn't judge. It doesn't categorize things as waste or treasure. It simply transforms, patiently, thoroughly, completely. What if endings aren't actually endings? What if they're just transitions? What if the mushroom, working quietly in the dark, has been demonstrating the truth of transformation for 400 million years? Now, let's venture into something that feels like pure magic. Mushrooms that glow in the dark. Right now, in tropical forests around the world, there are mushrooms producing their own light. Not reflecting light, creating it. Through a process called bioluminescence, they generate a soft, green glow that illuminates the forest floor like tiny lanterns. In 2015, Dr. J. Dunlop at Dartmouth College discovered the mechanism behind fungal bioluminescence. The mushrooms produce light through a chemical reaction involving luciferin, the same compound fireflies use. But here's what's mysterious. We still don't fully understand why they do it. One theory suggests they glow to attract insects, which then spread their spores. But some bioluminescent mushrooms glow constantly, day and night, wasting energy on light that's invisible in daylight. It's inefficient. It's impractical. And yet they do it anyway. Think of it like this. Imagine creating beauty for no other reason than because you can. No survival advantage. No evolutionary pressure. Just light for the sake of light. The ghost mushroom Omphallotus nidiformis glows bright enough in Australian forests that you can read by its light. Indigenous peoples used clusters of these mushrooms to mark trails through dark forests, creating natural bioluminescent signposts. The honey mushroom Armillaria. Melia glows so brightly in autumn forests that the decaying wood it inhabits seems to pulse with otherworldly light. Early naturalists called it foxfire and believed it was supernatural. We now know its chemistry. But somehow, knowing the mechanism doesn't diminish the wonder. There are 71 known species of bioluminescent fungi, found on every continent except Antarctica. They grow in the darkest places, deep forests, shadowed swamps, cave entrances. And in that darkness, they create light. Here's what's profoundly calming about this. The mushroom doesn't glow because it's desperate or stressed. It glows because that's simply what it does. In the darkness, it creates beauty. In isolation, it creates light. Without audience, without recognition, without reward beyond its own existence. Let me tell you about the most resilient organisms on Earth. Not cockroaches. Not tardigrades. Fungi. In 1986, after the Chernobyl nuclear disaster, scientists expected to find a dead zone, nothing living, nothing surviving in the intense radiation. Instead, they found mushrooms. Lots of them. Thriving in the radioactive ruins. Even more remarkably, these fungi weren't just surviving radiation. They were using it. Dr. Ekaterina Dadashova at Albert Einstein College of Medicine discovered in 2007 that certain fungi contain melanin that can convert gamma radiation into chemical energy, similar to how plants use chlorophyll to convert sunlight. Think of it like this. Imagine if the most toxic, deadly environment humans have ever created actually fed you, actually made you stronger. That's what radiation does for these mushrooms. Cryptococcus neoformans, a fungus found thriving in Chernobyl's reactor chamber, was processing radiation and growing faster than fungi in normal environments. The ultimate adaptation. The ultimate patience. Where humans created destruction, the mushroom found opportunity. Fungi have survived every mass extinction event in Earth's history. When the asteroid struck that killed the dinosaurs, blocking out the sun and creating years of darkness and cold, most life died, but fungi thrived. They feasted on the dead, broke down the forests, and actually flourished in the darkness. They don't need sunlight. They don't need warmth. They can survive temperatures from minus 200 degrees Celsius to over 400 degrees Celsius. They can live in acid that would dissolve metal. They can survive the vacuum of space. In 2002, the European Space Agency sent fungi into orbit outside the International Space Station, exposing them to cosmic radiation, extreme temperatures, and the vacuum of space. When they were brought back to Earth, they were still viable, still capable of growth. What's profoundly peaceful about this isn't just their resilience, it's their flexibility. The mushroom doesn't fight harsh conditions. It adapts. It finds a way to use whatever's available. It transforms challenge into sustenance. Now, let me connect this to you, personally, intimately. Because mushrooms aren't just out there in forests and fields. They're in you. Your body contains a microbiome, trillions of microorganisms living in and on you. And among those, there are fungi. In your gut, on your skin, in your mouth. Most of them are harmless or beneficial, quietly performing functions we're only beginning to understand. But here's what's truly remarkable. Your body knows how to work with fungi. Your immune system, your digestion, your very metabolism has co-evolved with fungal organisms for millions of years. You are not separate from nature. You are part of the mycelial network of life. Think of it like this. Every breath you take has likely passed through fungal spores. Every vegetable you eat was likely grown with nutrients provided by mycorrhizal fungi. Every forest you've walked through has had an invisible network beneath your feet, connecting everything, including you, to everything else. When you eat a mushroom, you're consuming an organism more closely related to you than to plants. Mushrooms have chitin in their cell walls, the same material that makes up the exoskeletons of insects. They process nutrients in ways similar to animal digestion. They're our fungal cousins, and we've been eating them for our entire evolutionary history. Recent research by Dr. Robert Lustig at UC San Francisco has shown that certain compounds in mushrooms can improve gut bacteria diversity, which influences mood, immune function, and even cognitive performance. The mushroom you eat doesn't just nourish your body, it influences your microbiome, which influences your brain, which influences how you feel and think. You are not an isolated organism. You are an ecosystem. And fungi are part of that ecosystem, performing quiet services you never consciously recognize, but absolutely depend upon. Here's the profound shift. When you understand that you're connected to fungal networks through your food, your environment, your very biology, the idea of separation dissolves. You're not observing nature from outside. You're participating in it, always, whether you realize it or not. Before we go deeper, let me pause and share something that will completely reframe everything we've discussed so far. What if I told you that the largest mass extinction in Earth's history, the Permian extinction, which killed 96% of all marine species and 70% of land species 252 million years ago, might have been caused by fungi? Recent research suggests that massive fungal blooms, feeding on dying forests in the warming climate, may have released enough carbon dioxide to accelerate global warming into a catastrophic feedback loop. The peaceful decomposer, in abundance, became an extinction engine. But here's the twist. After that extinction, it was fungi that prepared the earth for new life. They broke down the dead, created new soil, and made possible the rise of the dinosaurs and, eventually, mammals. Eventually, us. The organism that may have contributed to the worst extinction event in Earth's history also made possible the recovery. It's not good or evil. It's transformational. It's cyclical. It's nature, operating beyond human categories of judgment. Now stay with me, because we're about to explore how mushrooms might be conscious, how they might be thinking, how they might be aware in ways we've never considered. Let's tackle something that sounds impossible, Can mushrooms think? Dr. Andrew Adamatsky at the University of the West of England has been studying electrical impulses in mycelial networks. In 2018, he discovered that fungi communicate using electrical signals that pulse through their networks in patterns remarkably similar to neural activity in animal brains. These aren't random signals. They have structure, syntax, even what appears to be vocabulary. Dr. Adamatsky analyzed these signals and found patterns he describes as a fungal language, with up to 50 distinct words. Think of it like this. Imagine an organism with no brain, no nervous system, distributed across miles of soil, somehow coordinating complex behaviors through electrical signals. That's what's happening underground right now. The signals travel at speeds up to 0.4 millimeters per second slow by our standards. But remember, the organism isn't in a hurry. It's operating on geological time, making decisions that might take days or weeks to fully execute. When one part of a mycelial network finds food, it sends signals to other parts, which then grow in that direction. When it encounters a threat, it signals avoidance. When it finds a compatible partner for reproduction, it signals attraction. These aren't reflexes. These are decisions based on information processing. Dr. Nicholas Money at Miami University has argued that fungi exhibit clear signs of what he calls sensory intelligence. They can detect and respond to light, chemicals, touch, gravity, electrical fields, and possibly even sound vibrations. They navigate complex environments, make trade-offs between different food sources, and even seem to remember where they've been. In 2012, researchers found that slime molds can learn to ignore harmless substances they initially avoided. They habituate. They change behavior based on experience. Without a brain, without neurons, they demonstrate a form of memory. Now, are mushrooms conscious in the way you are? Almost certainly not. But consciousness might not be binary. It might not be something you have or don't have. It might exist on a spectrum, and fungi might occupy a point on that spectrum we've never considered. What's calming about this isn't the answer, because we don't have one yet. What's calming is the question. The reminder that intelligence, awareness, even consciousness might be far more widespread, far more diverse than we imagined. You're not alone in experiencing reality. You're part of a world alive with experiencing beings, most of whom we'll never fully understand. Let's explore one of the most beautiful concepts in biology, symbiosis. The idea that organisms can succeed not through competition, but through cooperation. Lichens are one of nature's most successful partnerships. They're not a single organism. They're a fungus and an alga or cyanobacterium living together so intimately that they appear to be one being. The fungus provides structure and protection. The alga provides food through photosynthesis. Together, they can survive in environments where neither could exist alone. You'll find lichens in the Arctic, in deserts, on bare rock faces, in polluted cities. They're among the longest-lived organisms on Earth, with some Antarctic lichens estimated to be over 5,000 years old. And they exist only because of cooperation. Dr. Toby Spribbell at the University of Alberta made a stunning discovery in 2016. Lichens aren't just two organisms. They're three. Every lichen studied also contains a yeast that seems to play a crucial role in the partnership. For 150 years, scientists had been looking at lichens and missing 1/3 of the collaboration. Think of it like this. Imagine if every successful human relationship you'd ever observed actually included an invisible third party you never noticed, quietly making the relationship work. That's what was happening with lichens. But the symbiosis goes deeper. Over 90% of land plants depend on mycorrhizal fungi-fungal partners that attach to their roots and extend their reach into the soil. The plant can't access certain nutrients without the fungus. The fungus can't produce its own food without the plant. They need each other absolutely. This relationship evolved over 400 million years ago, and it's likely what made the colonization of land by plants possible. The first plants couldn't survive on land until they partnered with fungi. Life on Earth, as we know it, forests, grasslands, crops, gardens, all exists because of this ancient collaboration. And here's what's remarkable. The fungus doesn't take more than it needs. The plant doesn't hoard sugars. They share in proportion to need and capacity. Without contracts, without enforcement, without consciousness as we understand it, they maintain fair exchange. What if cooperation isn't a moral choice, but a fundamental strategy for survival? What if the universe favors not the strongest or most competitive, but those who can partner, collaborate, share resources? The mushroom has been demonstrating this truth for hundreds of millions of years. Perhaps we're finally ready to learn the lesson. Now we enter sensitive, but scientifically important territory: psychedelic mushrooms and their effects on human consciousness. Psilocybin mushrooms have been used in spiritual and healing ceremonies for thousands of years. The Mazatec people of Mexico have a healing tradition involving these mushrooms that predates written history. And Western science is finally beginning to understand why. Dr. Robin Carhart Harris at Imperial College, London, has been conducting groundbreaking research on psilocybin's effects on the brain. Using fMRI imaging, he discovered that psilocybin doesn't increase brain activity. It decreases it, specifically in a network called the default mode network. This network is responsible for self-referential thinking, ego, your sense of being a separate individual. When psilocybin quiets this network, people report feeling connected to everything, losing the boundary between self and world. Think of it like this. Your brain normally operates like a city with rigid traffic patterns, with thoughts following habitual routes. Psilocybin temporarily removes the traffic lights, allowing thoughts to flow in novel patterns, creating new connections. In 2016, Dr. Roland Griffiths at Johns Hopkins University conducted studies showing that a single psilocybin experience, properly guided, produced lasting increases in openness, life satisfaction, and feelings of connection that persisted for at least a year. Participants rated it among the most meaningful experiences of their lives, comparable to the birth of a child or death of a parent. These aren't recreational findings. In 2018, the FDA designated psilocybin a breakthrough therapy for treatment-resistant depression. Studies show success rates of 60 to 70% in cases where traditional antidepressants failed. But here's what's profoundly interesting from our relaxation perspective. The mushroom isn't creating these experiences from nothing. It's removing filters. It's quieting the part of your brain that constantly maintains separation, judgment, anxiety about past and future. What participants often report is a sense of coming home, of remembering something they'd forgotten, of feeling connected to the same vast network we've been discussing, the mycelial network of life itself. The mushroom, once again, is teaching, not through words, but through direct experience, showing that the boundaries you maintain between yourself and world are constructions, useful perhaps, but not ultimate truths. Let's talk about hope. Real, practical, scientifically demonstrated hope for healing environmental damage. Mycoremediation is the use of fungi to clean up pollution, and it's one of the most promising environmental technologies we have. Dr. Paul Stamets has pioneered much of this work, demonstrating that mushrooms can clean up oil spills, pesticides, heavy metals, and even radioactive contamination. In one experiment, he placed oyster mushrooms in soil contaminated with diesel fuel. Within 8 weeks, the soil was clean enough to support plant growth. The mushrooms had broken down the petroleum into harmless compounds. And here's the remarkable part. You could then eat those mushrooms safely, as they had transformed the toxins completely. Think of it like this. Imagine a janitor didn't just move dirt around, but actually transformed it into clean water and fresh air. That's what mushrooms do. In the Amazon, researchers have found fungi that can break down plastic. Pastelocypsis microspora can digest polyurethane, one of the most persistent plastics even in anaerobic conditions like landfills. It's not fast, but it's effective. The mushroom is patient. After the Fukushima nuclear disaster, Japanese researchers began deploying fungi that concentrate radioactive cesium, allowing contaminated areas to be slowly cleaned. The mushrooms absorb the radiation, concentrating it in their tissue, which can then be safely removed and stored. The mushroom doesn't complain about the work. It doesn't demand recognition. It simply transforms poison into nutrition, death into life, pollution into soil. It's been doing this for 400 million years. We're just now learning to work with it intentionally. There's something deeply calming about knowing that no matter how badly we damage our environment, there are organisms ready to heal it. Not through dramatic intervention, but through patient, persistent transformation. The mushroom doesn't judge our mistakes. It just cleans them up. What if healing doesn't require force or urgency? What if it requires patience, proper conditions, and trust in natural processes? The mushroom has been teaching this lesson all along. Now let's look forward. Because mushrooms aren't just part of our past and present, they're becoming our future. Right now, companies are growing furniture from mycelium. Not making furniture that looks like mushrooms, but literally growing furniture from living fungal networks. The mycelium is fed agricultural waste, allowed to grow into molds shaped like chairs or tables or building blocks, then dried to stop growth. The result is stronger than concrete, completely biodegradable, and carbon negative. Innovative design has pioneered this technology, creating everything from packaging materials to synthetic leather to acoustic panels, all from mushrooms. When you're done with the product, you can literally plant it in your garden, where it will decompose and feed your soil. Think of it like this. Imagine if everything you owned could eventually become food for new growth. No waste, no landfills, just cycles. MycoWorks has created a leather alternative called reishi that's made entirely from mushroom mycelium. It has the texture, durability, and workability of animal leather, but can be grown in 2 weeks instead of raising cattle for years. Hermes has used it to create luxury handbags. The future of fashion might be fungal. Researchers at Stanford University are developing mushroom-based batteries. The fungal structures create perfect scaffolds for holding electrical charge, potentially revolutionizing energy storage. NASA is researching growing building materials from mycelium for Mars colonization. Instead of transporting building supplies, astronauts could bring mushroom spores and agricultural waste and grow habitats on arrival. The mushroom doesn't need Earth's gravity or atmosphere. It just needs basic nutrients and time. But perhaps most exciting, mushroom burial pods. Instead of embalming bodies with toxic chemicals or cremating them with massive energy expenditure, companies are creating suits embedded with mushroom spores that transform bodies into rich soil. In death, you become life, literally. The mushroom isn't just surviving our future, it's building it quietly, patiently, one thread at a time. Let's get philosophical. Because mushrooms challenge some of our deepest assumptions about life, identity, and existence. What is an individual? You think you're one person, one organism, but a mushroom challenges this. The organism underground might span miles, but each fruiting body above ground could be considered separate. Or are they? They share the same DNA, the same cellular network, the same resources. Dr. Merlin Sheldrake, in his book Entangled Life, points out that fungi blur the boundary between individual and collective in ways that trouble our categories. A mycelial network is both one and many simultaneously. It's a collective that functions as an individual that's actually a collective. Think of it like this. If your neurons could survive independently, separated from your body, would each neuron be an individual, or would they still be you? The mushroom lives this paradox. Fungi also challenge our ideas about time. A mushroom might fruit once a year, but the organism underground is continuous, timeless. Which is the real organism, a temporary fruit, or the eternal network. And they challenge our understanding of death. When a mushroom breaks down a dead tree, is it killing or transforming? Is decomposition an ending or a beginning? From the tree's perspective, it might be death. From the forest's perspective, it's distribution of resources. From the mushroom's perspective, it's dinner. Western philosophy has long been obsessed with individualism, with clear boundaries between self and other, life and death, mind and matter. But the mushroom exists in the spaces between these categories. It's neither plant nor animal. It's both alive and dormant. It's individual and collective. It's decomposer and creator. What if reality isn't made of distinct objects, but of relationships? What if the boundaries we draw are convenient fictions rather than fundamental truths? The mushroom has been demonstrating this for hundreds of millions of years. There's something profoundly relaxing about releasing the need for clear categories, certain boundaries, definitive answers. The mushroom invites us into a more fluid understanding of existence, one where transformation is constant, where death feeds life, where separation is illusion, and where everything is connected through invisible networks we're only beginning to understand. Now, let's bring this all together, because everything we've discussed has been building toward a single profound realization. You are not separate from the mushroom. Not metaphorically. Actually, the oxygen you're breathing right now was likely processed by organisms that depend on mycorrhizal networks. The food you ate today was grown in soil enriched by fungal decomposition. The medicines that may have saved your life or the life of someone you love came from fungi. The forests that produce the oxygen, regulate the climate, and maintain the habitability of this planet exist because of fungal partnerships. And deeper than that, you are made of the same atoms that have cycled through countless organisms, including fungi, for billions of years. The carbon in your body was once in trees, which were broken down by mushrooms, which fed new growth, which you ate, which became you. Think of it like this. You're not a separate thing observing nature. You're a temporary pattern in the flow of nature. A wave in the ocean, convinced it's separate from water. The mushroom network beneath the forest floor is often called the brain of the forest. But what if Earth itself has a kind of distributed intelligence, spread across mycelial networks spanning continents? What if you're not outside that intelligence, but part of it, a neuron in Earth's vast, slow-thinking mind? This isn't mysticism. This is ecology. This is systems thinking. This is the recognition that separation is a useful perceptual tool, but not ultimate reality. And here's what's profoundly calming about this. If you're part of a vast, interconnected network that's been functioning successfully for 400 million years, you don't have to figure everything out alone. You don't have to survive in isolation. You're already being supported by systems you can't see, networks you never consciously recognize, but absolutely depend upon. The mushroom doesn't stress about being a mushroom. It doesn't worry about its purpose or meaning. It simply does what it does, decomposes, connects, transforms, persists. And in doing exactly what it is, it supports all life on Earth. What if you could trust that same principle? That by being exactly what you are, you're already part of something larger? Already contributing to networks of support you'll never fully understand? As we come to the end of our journey, let's return to where we started. Beneath your feet, or perhaps miles away, there's a mycelial network growing right now. It's been growing since before you were born. It will grow after you're gone. It doesn't know your name. It doesn't care about your achievements or failures. It simply does what it's always done. Connects, shares resources, transforms death into life, persists through catastrophe, and creates beauty in darkness. And somehow, in that indifference, there's profound comfort. You don't have to be exceptional. You don't have to optimize every moment. You don't have to compete or dominate or prove anything. You can simply be like the mushroom, doing what you do, at your own pace, in your own time. The mycelial network will be there tomorrow, and the next day, and for thousands of years after you're gone. It's patient, it's persistent. It's resilient not through force, but through flexibility. As you drift towards sleep tonight, imagine those underground networks. Miles of tiny threads, connecting trees, sharing resources, transforming death into life. Imagine yourself as part of that network, not separate, not isolated, but connected to everything through invisible threads you'll never see, but always depend upon. You are not alone. You have never been alone. You are part of an ancient web of life that stretches back 400 million years and will continue long after human civilization is a distant memory. And in that continuity, that vastness, that patient transformation of all things, you can rest. The mushroom doesn't rush. Neither should you. The mushroom doesn't force. Neither should you. The mushroom transforms everything, even death, into something new. So will you. Sleep now, knowing you're part of something vast, ancient, and infinitely patient. Something that doesn't judge, doesn't demand, doesn't stress. Just like the mushroom, growing quietly in the dark, you are exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you need to do, connected to everything, held by networks you can't see but can absolutely trust. Rest easy. The mycelium has you. The network holds you. You are part of the forest's dream. And tomorrow, when you wake, the mushrooms will still be there, doing what they've always done, teaching the same lesson they've taught for 400 million years. Let me tell you something that will shift how you experience every moment from now on. Time, as you understand it, is a human construction. The mushroom knows a different kind of time entirely. When Dr. Juliana Forci, the world's first national mycologist appointed by Chile, studied fungal networks in the temperate rainforests, she discovered something remarkable about how mushrooms perceive seasonal change. The mycelial networks don't just respond to seasons, they anticipate them. Weeks before autumn arrives, before leaves begin to turn, before any visible sign appears to human eyes, the fungal networks begin preparing for the fruiting season. They're reading signals we can't detect: subtle shifts in day length, minute temperature variations, chemical changes in tree metabolism. They're experiencing time not as discrete moments, but as continuous flow. Think of it like this. You experience time as a series of snapshots, distinct moments strung together. The mushroom experiences time as a river, flowing continuously, with past and future blending into an eternal present. This has profound implications for how we think about patience. When you're waiting for something, a job offer, a relationship to improve, a goal to manifest, you're experiencing time as obstruction. Each moment that passes without the desired outcome feels like failure, like lost time, like something being taken from you. But the mushroom waiting underground for the perfect conditions to fruit isn't experiencing that wait as suffering. It's not counting days. It's not comparing itself to other mushrooms that fruited earlier. It's simply existing in readiness, in potential, in the continuous now. Dr. Patricia Kaishian, a mycologist and science communicator at Cornell University, describes fungal time as anticipatory presence. The organism is fully present in each moment, while simultaneously being prepared for moments that haven't arrived yet. No anxiety about the future, but complete readiness for it. In 2019, researchers in Finland discovered a bracket fungus, Phamatopsis officinalis, that was over 1,000 years old. The same individual organism had been slowly growing on a fallen log for a millennium. Through the entire history of medieval Europe, the Renaissance, the Industrial Revolution, 2 world wars, and the digital age, this mushroom was doing the same thing, growing a fraction of a millimeter per year, processing wood, existing. Was it bored? The question is meaningless. The mushroom doesn't experience boredom because it doesn't experience time as a resource to be spent or wasted. It simply is, moment after moment, for 1,000 years. What would your life feel like if you could access even a fraction of that patience? Not as a forced practice or discipline, but as a natural state of being. Here's the secret the mushroom knows. Nothing is being wasted. Every moment of waiting is also a moment of preparation. Every moment of apparent inactivity is also transformation happening at a scale too subtle for human perception to detect. When a mushroom spore sits dormant for decades, it's not doing nothing. It's maintaining itself. It's preserving potential. It's waiting with perfect efficiency, earning minimal energy, ready to activate the instant conditions align. You're breathing right now. Your heart is beating. Your cells are replacing themselves. Even when you think you're doing nothing, you're performing thousands of complex biological processes. Even in sleep, even in rest, you're transforming. Just like the mushroom. Now let's explore something that contradicts everything modern culture teaches us. The profound intelligence of silence. Mushrooms don't make sound. They produce no vocalizations, no warnings, no mating calls. Yet they communicate constantly through chemical signals, electrical impulses, and networked information exchange. They've maintained this silent conversation for 400 million years. Dr. Monica Gagliano at the University of Sydney has revolutionized our understanding of plant communication, and her work extends to fungal networks. She discovered that plants and fungi exchange information not just through chemical signals, but through acoustic frequencies below human hearing range. The mycelial network hums. Not metaphorically, it produces actual vibrations as nutrients and signals flow through its structure. These vibrations can influence growth patterns, trigger responses in connected plants, and coordinate behavior across vast distances. Think of it like this. Imagine a conversation happening all around you, all the time, in frequencies you can't hear. Not silence, but communication beyond your sensory range. That's what's happening in the soil, beneath every step you take. What's remarkable is the efficiency of this silence. Human communication is often cluttered with noise redundancy, misunderstanding, emotional static. We talk constantly, often saying very little. We fill space with sound to avoid the discomfort of quiet. But fungal communication is precise, minimal, exactly what's needed and nothing more. When a mycelial thread encounters a nutrient source, it sends a simple signal. Food here. The network responds appropriately, directing growth toward the resource. No debate, no committee, no overthinking. Just signal and response. In our modern world, we've confused communication with constant noise. We believe connection requires constant contact, constant updates, constant availability. But the mushroom network demonstrates a different model. Profound connection through minimal, precise communication. The trees in a forest aren't constantly talking through the fungal network. They're in constant contact, yes, but most of that contact is silence, just the baseline hum of shared existence. Communication happens when needed. Warnings of pest attacks, redistribution of resources to struggling members, coordination of seasonal changes. There's a Buddhist concept called comfortable silence, the ability to be with someone without needing to fill space with words. The mushroom network has mastered this on a planetary scale. Millions of organisms, connected in silence, communicating only what matters, resting in the quiet hum of shared existence. What would your relationships look like if they could embrace this kind of silence? Not the uncomfortable silence of disconnection, but the comfortable silence of deep connection that doesn't require constant proof. Dr. Suzanne Simard, in her later work, discovered that mother trees send more resources to their offspring during times of stress, but the rest of the time, the connection is simply maintained a baseline presence rather than active intervention. Like a parent whose child has moved away, not talking every day, but the connection remains, ready to activate when needed. This is restful communication. Connection without exhaustion. Relationship without constant maintenance. The mushroom has been modeling this for us all along. Let's talk about darkness. Not as absence, but as presence. Not as emptiness, but as fullness. Mushrooms thrive in darkness. Most of their life cycle happens in complete absence of light, underground or inside decaying wood. They've evolved not to tolerate darkness, but to prefer it, to utilize it, to transform it into advantage. This directly contradicts the human obsession with light, visibility, exposure. We've created a culture that demands constant illumination, both literal and metaphorical. We're supposed to be visible, documented, seen at all times. Our achievements must be displayed. Our lives must be shareable. Darkness has become synonymous with failure or depression. But the mushroom knows something we've forgotten. Most growth happens in darkness. Dr. Lynn Boddy at Cardiff University has studied how fungi navigate through soil, and she's discovered that they actually grow better in darkness than in light. Light can inhibit certain growth processes. The absence of light isn't deprivation, it's optimal conditions. Think of it like this. A seed germinates in darkness under soil. A baby develops in darkness inside the womb. Your deepest sleep, your most restorative rest, happens in darkness. The most profound transformations often occur hidden from view. The honey mushroom we discussed earlier, the largest living organism on Earth, spent thousands of years growing entirely underground, invisible, unknown. It wasn't waiting to be discovered. It wasn't performing for an audience. It was simply being, growing, existing in darkness, and that was enough. In 2020, researchers discovered a new species of bioluminescent fungus in the Atlantic forest of Brazil. This mushroom has likely been glowing in the dark understory for millions of years before a human ever saw it. It didn't need discovery to be valid. It didn't need recognition to be valuable. It existed, creating light in darkness, for its own purposes, long before we arrived, and will continue long after we're gone. There's something profoundly liberating about this. You don't need to be seen to be real. You don't need to be documented to be valid. You don't need constant external validation to have worth. The mushroom growing in the dark forest, processing nutrients, connecting trees, supporting the entire ecosystem. It receives no recognition, no reward, no acknowledgement. And yet, it's arguably more important to the forest's survival than any individual tree. What if your most important work is happening in ways you'll never see? What if the invisible ripples of your kindness, your creativity, your simple existence are affecting systems you'll never understand? Modern surveillance culture wants us to believe that only what's visible matters, only what's measured counts, only what's shared is real. But the mushroom knows that the most important processes happen in darkness, in privacy, in hidden spaces where transformation can occur without observation. Your rest matters even though no one sees it. Your private thoughts matter even though they're not posted. Your quiet existence matters even though it's not performing for anyone. The mushroom doesn't apologize for loving darkness. Neither should you. As we move toward the deepest rest, let me offer you one final reframe that synthesizes everything we've explored. What if you stopped thinking of yourself as a discrete individual and started thinking of yourself as a node in a mycelial network? You're connected to every person you've ever met through invisible threads of influence, memory, shared experience. Your existence has touched theirs. Theirs has touched yours. Like the fungal network, these connections persist even when you're not consciously maintaining them. Every book you've read, every conversation you've had, every place you've visited has left threads connecting you to those sources. You're not an isolated island of consciousness. You're a convergence point of influences, experiences, relationships, stretching back through time and out across space. Think of it like this. When one tree in a forest dies, it doesn't just disappear. Its nutrients are redistributed through the fungal network to other trees. Its carbon becomes soil, becomes other organisms, becomes new growth. Nothing is lost. Everything is transformed and redistributed. When you learn something and share it, you're extending your mycelial threads to others. When you create something, you're sending nutrients into the network. When you rest, you're drawing resources from the network for your own restoration. It's not selfish, it's how the network maintains itself. Dr. Merlin Sheldrake points out that we literally breathe in fungal spores with every breath. They're in your lungs right now. Some of them are harmless passengers. Some are beneficial. You are not separate from the fungal kingdom. You're interpenetrated by it, dependent on it, part of it. And when you die, you'll return to it completely. Your body will be broken down, most likely by bacteria first, but eventually by fungi. Your molecules will become mycelium, will become new mushrooms, will become soil that feeds trees, will become the bodies of other creatures. You'll be redistributed through the network. This isn't morbid. This is the most profound form of connection possible. You're not moving toward oblivion, but toward transformation and integration into something larger than yourself. Right now, in this moment, you're already integrated. You're already part of the mycelial network of human culture, biological ecosystems, planetary processes. You've always been part of it. You could never be separate from it. The anxiety of isolation is based on a perceptual error, the belief that you're a separate, isolated individual who must maintain yourself alone. But you've never been alone. You've been supported by invisible networks your entire life. The people who grew your food, the trees that made your oxygen, the fungi that built the soil, the bacteria in your gut, the culture that shaped your thoughts. The mushroom doesn't suffer from isolation because it knows it's never isolated. Even a single mycelial thread, separated from the main network, contains all the information needed to regrow the entire organism. It's both individual and collective simultaneously. You are both yourself and part of everything, both autonomous and connected, both independent and utterly dependent. The mushroom has been demonstrating how to hold these paradoxes for 400 million years. As you drift toward sleep, feel yourself settling into the network. Not metaphorically, but actually. The bed supporting you, the air you're breathing, the thoughts flowing through your mind, all of it connected, all of it part of larger patterns, all of it held by systems that were here before you and will continue after you. You can rest because the network holds you. You can let go because you're not separate from what you're letting go into. You can sleep because sleeping is just another form of connection, another way of being part of the flow. The mushroom is showing you how. Be patient like mycelium. Be persistent like spores. Be transformative like decomposition. Be connected like the wood wide web. Be present like fungal time. Be comfortable like darkness. Be generous like nutrient sharing. Be resilient like extremophiles. Be yourself like a mushroom that's been successfully being itself for 400 million years. You don't have to try so hard. You don't have to prove so much. You don't have to understand everything. You just have to be like the mushroom, doing what you do, part of the network, held and supported and connected. Rest now in that knowledge. Let the mycelial network of existence hold you as it's always held you. Let yourself be just another thread in the vast web of life, important because you're part of it, valuable because you exist, enough exactly as you are. The mushroom asks nothing of you except what you already are. And in that gentle acceptance, there is finally, completely, permission to rest. Sleep well, knowing you're part of something ancient, vast, and infinitely patient. Something that doesn't demand, doesn't judge, doesn't rush. Something that simply is, as you are, held in the same quiet network of existence that holds all life. Good night, dear thread in the mycelium. Good night, fellow node in the network. Good night, temporary pattern in the eternal flow. You are held. You are connected. You are enough.